We have Zevachim, and we are in Gimel base. If a qualified person received the blood and handed it to a disqualified person, he should return it to the qualified person. If he received the blood with his right hand and put it in his left hand, he returned it to his right hand. If he received it in a sacred vessel and poured it into a non-sacred vessel, he should pour it back into the sacred vessel. If it spilled from the vessel onto the floor and it gathered it up, it is valid. It's funny because most of the time we hear these things. If
Right.
something's
Right.
not
So
wrong,
basically, the action of receiving has to be done by a kosher person. If it was done by a kosher person, it's all good. If he says, like, to the Israel, just hold this for me a second, and the Israel takes it, okay, yeah, then that's fine. And he gives it back to him afterwards. So as long as the action was done by the Kohen, you're fine.
okay.
If it was caught by the Kohen in a kosher way and then he accidentally spilled it and he can still pick it up, then he can pick it up. So these are the things that so that's exactly what this mission is about, is telling you the things that, okay, it happened now, but it's okay.
It's interesting when they say, like, pick up the spilled blood. How do you pick up a liquid like that? How do you can't really pick it up.
Yeah, okay. Let's say the stones maybe have a little recession in them, and the blood is pooled in there, and you've got enough inside there that you can put it back into the kli and take it and sprinkle it.
And if he applied it to the ramp or not opposite the altar base, or he applied to that which should be applied to the lower part of the altar above, or that which should be applied to the upper part below, or he applied that which should be applied within the sanctuary on the outside, or that which should be applied on the outside within it, if there is yet some lifeblood, a qualified person should again receive blood. If one slaughters a sacrifice with the intent to eat something which is not meant to be eaten, or to burn upon the altar something which is not meant to be burnt, it is valid. If Eliezer invalidates. If the intent was to eat something which is meant to be eaten, or to burn upon the altar something which is meant to be burnt, but less than an olive vayim, it is valid. If the intent was to eat half an olive vayim and to burn upon the altar half an olive vayim, it is valid, for eating and altar burning are not combined. If one slaughters a sacrifice with the intent to eat an olive vayim of the hide, the gravy, the sediment, the flay or shreds, the bones, the giddim, the hooves or the horns beyond its time or outside its place, it is valid, and one is not liable in regard to them for pigul, noser, or tummy.
So these things are not considered food. So let's say a korban did become pigul because he had a thought of chutz lizmano, and then a person went and ate from one of these things, from the bones or from the horns or the hooves or whatever. No, that's not considered food, and the person is not chayav pigul for that. Okay, and the same goes for nosar and tameh. Anything that's left over after the zman, or if the korban became tameh, you're not chayav for that. Okay, so yeah, some similar cases here. Hashochet is hamukdashin leechol shlil or shilya. So he takes a female korban, and he shechts it, and he has in mind that he wants to eat the afterbirth or the fetus or the fetus bachutz outside. Then he hasn't caused pigul or past the zman. He hasn't invalidated the sacrifice, because those are not things that are normally, we saw in the previous Mishnah, it's davar shedar kolecho. It's something that's normally eaten. This is not something that's normally eaten. It falls under the category of horns and hooves and things. Okay. Hamolek torin bifnim leechol beitzeim bachutz lo pigel. Similarly, when it comes to birds, well, specifically torin is the is the turtle dove. Is that right? That's the turtle dove.
The turtle dove, right?
Yeah. So in order to eat and having in mind that this bird might have eggs inside it, that he wants to eat the bird's eggs outside the azar or outside the zman, he again hasn't caused pigul. That's not something that's normally eaten. Now, however, chalav hamukdashim ubeitzei torin, but the milk of a cow. Let's say you're bringing a cow or a female goat into and it's being shechted for a korban, and he has in mind that he wants to eat the milk that comes out of it chutz lezmano. Okay, so that actually can cause pigul. However, ein chayvim aleihem mishum pigul nosa v'tameh. But that milk or the eggs of the dove, which are actually different. It's a different halacha with the dove. Because they are apparently more frequently eaten with them. So, but with the so they can cause pigul, but if you actually eat those things, you're not chayiv on them because it's not part of the ikar part of the animal. So so let's say the korban became pigul nosar al tameh, and the person went and drank the milk from the shechted animal's udder, or ate the eggs that were found inside its body. You're not chayiv on those, because these are but when it comes to the fetus or the afterbirth, which we mentioned at the beginning of the Mishnah, those you actually would be chayiv on for eating if the sacrifice became pigul. Let's just see if there's anything else here. So after it's curious that the two different species of birds have different halachas as far as their eggs are concerned. It seems like for the turtle doves there's no pigul intention, but for the young doves there is pigul from the intention to eat them outside this month. I don't have an explanation as to why they're treated differently from kahati. Does Archibald explain why the two different species of birds are treated differently?
I don't see anything here about that. I'm sorry. No, I don't see anything. I'm sorry, I don't see anything here.
Okay, because well, the reason why it's not considered part of the guf of the korban, perhaps because the young doves are they're younger than the turtle doves, and therefore any eggs that they have inside them are immature and therefore still part of the body. That's kind of what I would have to speculate, that because they're so much younger and they are underdeveloped, they're still considered part of the guf of the bird. Yeah.
I'm sure you don't know the answer to this question, not because you wouldn't know it, but I wonder what the difference is between eating a mature turtle dove's egg and a chicken's egg. Is there a difference in what they look like, what they taste like?
Well, I mean, a turtle dove is a lot smaller than a chicken.
Right. But I don't. No, I never thought of that before. I just thought eggs are eggs,
Not quite. Have you ever had duck eggs?
Excuse me, duck eggs. I don't know duck.
Yeah. I've had duck eggs. They do taste different from chicken eggs. They're somehow a little bit richer. I'm not. I kind of, for some reason, I felt a little bit bad about eating them. Anyway,
how did you get to eat them? Under what circumstance? Duress, or was it?
No, somehow I can't remember it. I mean, it was talking about decades ago. I was living in South Africa, and somehow we got some duck eggs from somewhere, and we fried them, and they looked different. I think the yolk was bigger, and it seemed, I don't know, just I can't remember what was the distinction. It was a while ago, and there were a few of us were feeling like kind of guilty that this should have been a cute little ducky. Chickens aren't so cute, but ducks are cute. Yeah.
Well, Ernie wouldn't be happy about that. With his rubber ducky, he would not be. You don't know that, do you?
What is that?
Ernie.
Ernie.
Sesame Street. He would not be happy with the rubber ducky.
Okay.
You don't get it so much. You don't get it.
Not so much.
You have to know the Sesame Street stuff.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit of an uncultured barbarian there.
Okay. Bob.
Now we know that pigul is when you have a specific intention to throw the blood or to eat the food chutz lezmano. Here he shechted the animal, just thinking, I'm not going to bother throwing the blood. He just leaves it. He doesn't have an intention for Zman, or he just has an intention. Forget it. I'm not interested in the blood. Or he's not interested in the sacrificial parts that are going to go on the mizbech. And he says, I'm going to leave them over here until tomorrow. He doesn't say what he's going to do with them tomorrow. He just says, I'm going to leave them over till tomorrow. Or lahotzian lachutz. Or he has intention that he wants to take them outside them. He wants to take them outside the Azara to, I don't know, show and tell for his kids or something like that. Why would he have that? I don't know, but he did. He had this intention. Rabbi Yehuda posel v'chachamim machshen. Rabbi Yehuda says that this is the same as it's a pasul intention, and therefore it disqualifies it. But the halacha is going to follow the chachamim that this is still kosher, because he didn't have intention to throw it or to eat it. To do one of the sacrificial services outside the zman or outside the makom. And if that's the case, then it's considered like a neutral thought. It had no effect. Shchato almanas litno al gabe hakevesh. If he had intention to put it on the ramp, shelo keneged hayasod. In other words, to sprinkle the blood on the ramp, it's supposed to go on the corners, right? Not on the ramp. Or shelo keneged hayasod, not next to the base. Or if he's supposed to sprinkle it below the middle line, and he has intention that he's going to sprinkle it above, or vice versa. Or if he had intention to sprinkle something that should have been sprinkled on the outside altar on the inside altar, vice versa. He switched altars in his intention. While he was doing this, he had intention that Tameh people should eat from it, or or that Tameh people should sacrifice it, or sheyochelu arelim, or that uncircumcised people should eat from it, sheyakrivuhu al arelim, or an uncircumcised Kohen should do the avodah. L'shaber atzmos haPesach, or he had intention to break the bone of a Pesach v'le'echol mimenuna, or to eat from it uncooked. L'arev damo b'dam pesulin, or to mix its blood with the blood of pasul sacrifices. All of these things are kosher. It's not an invalidating thought. It's because these are the only things that are invalidating thoughts are chutz lezman or chutz limkomo. She'ena machshava poseles ela chutz lezman v'chutz limkomo v'pesach v'chatas shelo lishman. And the other thing that, of course, invalidates a korban is you're talking about a pesach or a chatas that was sacrificed, that was shechted with the intention of it being a different kind of korban. Okay. All right. Perik Dalet. Beis Shammai omrim kol hanitanim al hamizbeach v'chitzon she'im nesanan matana achas kiper u'bechatas shtei matanos. It says that Beis Shammai, all the korbanos that have to be brought on the outer altar, one sprinkling is sufficient. But when it comes to a chatas, it has to be two matanos. Otherwise, the korban is pasul. So the argument between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai is whether one sprinkling for a chatas is sufficient. Okay, Beis Hillel say one sprinkling has already validated the chatas. Okay, now we come and see that there's an interesting little chumrah that comes out of Beis Hillel's view. Okay, because we make kill on the fact that it's a kosher korban even though he did only one sprinkling, but there's going to be a chumrah that comes out. Let's see. Lefichach im nasan es harishona katikna. Let's say he sprinkled the first. He did the first sprinkling 100% right. Ves hashniya chutz lizmana. And when he sprinkled the second time, he had an intention of eating the korban outside the zman. Remember, there's a chatas we're talking about, so the Kohen is going to be eating it, and he's thinking, let me save this one till tomorrow to eat. Okay, so that should be pigul. Right. According to Beis Hillel, he's mechaper. That's fine. It's not a problem because the second sprinkling was just like for mitzvah. It's a nice thing to do, but it isn't an essential part of the service because the first one has already been machshir the korban. Okay, so there's no pigul at this point because the korban was already kosher. Okay. Nasan is harishona. However, if he put the first one down, if with his first sprinkling he was thinking chutz lezman, he's going to eat this korban chutz lezman. There's a shnia chutz limkoma, and he said the second one. He said, okay, let's do the chutz. I'm also going to eat it outside. According to Beis Shammai, he's going to say this is just puzzle. Right, because remember we've got to have the hamatir has got to be done mitzvah. So if something's going to be pigul, everything else has to have been perfect. But now he's also had a thought of chutz limkomo, which removes it from the status of pigul, and now just makes it a pasul sacrifice. But he's not chayiv for pigul. Okay, but according to Beis Hillel, it's pigul v'chayev in alav kares, because if he had because the first one is the only one that matters. The second one is, it's nice to do, it's the right thing to do, but it doesn't affect the avoda, and therefore, according to Beis Hillel, this case is a case of pigul, which is more machmir than Beis Shammai. So it's the other side of the coin, that Beis Hillel's kula on the one side becomes a chumer on the other side. Okay. Let's go back to Horayos.
Okay, base hay. Not liable for a sacrifice for the sin of hearing the voice of adjuration, for the uttering of an oath of the lips, nor for the tuma contamination of the temple or its consecrated articles. The king is like them. These are the words of Rabbi Yossi Agili. Rabbi Akiva says the king is liable for all of them except for hearing the voice of adoration. For the king may not judge nor be judged, and he may not testify nor be testified against. For all the commandments of the Torah for which one is liable for willing transgression to kares, and for inadvertent transgression to the sin offering, an individual offers a she-lamb or a she-goat. The king offers a he-goat, and the anointed kohen and the court offer a bull. For idolatry, the individual, the king, and the anointed kohen offers a she-goat, and the other court offers a bull and a goat and a bull and a burnt offering and a goat as a sin offering. With regard to an asham tuli, the individual and the king are liable, but the anointed kohen and the court are exempt. With regard to the definite guilt offering, the individual, the king, and the anointed kohen are liable, but the court is exempt. For the sin of hearing the voice of adoration or the utterance of an oath of the lips or the tumor contamination of the temple or its consecrated articles, the court is exempt, but the individual, the king, and the anointed kohen are liable. But the kohen gadol is not liable for the tumor contamination of the temple or its consecrated articles, and these are the words of Rav Shimon. What do they offer? The variable sin offering, where Elias says the king offers a he-goat.
Yeah. Avos. Beis Yud.
Right. Over here. Okay. Avos. They should. They each said three things. Rav Elias says, let your fellows honor be as dear to you as your own, and do not anger easily, and repent one day before your death. Warm yourself opposite the fire of the sages, but beware of the glowing coal, lest you be scorched. For their bite is the bite of a fox, the sting is the sting of a scorpion, and the hiss is the hiss of a serpent. And all the words are like fiery coals. The Yeshua says, an evil eye, the evil and inclination and the hatred of other people remove the person from the world. Rabbi Yossi says, let your fellow's money be as dear to you as your own. Apply yourselves to study the Torah, for it is not yours by inheritance, and let all your deeds be for the sake of heaven.
Sanhedrin.
Hey, Gimel. If he stole from his father and ate in his father's domain, or from others and he ate in the domain of others, or from others and he ate in his father's domain, he does not become a ben Sarah al-Mara, unless he steals from his father and eats in the domain of others. Rabbi Yossi, the son of Yehuda, says, unless he steals from his father and his mother. If his father was willing and his mother was not, for his father was not willing and his mother was willing, he does not become a ben Sarah al-Mara unless they are both willing. Rabbi Yehuda says, if his mother did not correspond to his father, he does not become a ben Sarah al-Mara. If one of them is missing a hand or was lame, mute, blind, or deaf, he does not become a ben Sarah al-Mara, as it is said, and his father and his mother shall seize him, which excludes those missing a hand, and they shall take him out, which excludes the lame, and they shall say, which excludes the mute. The son of ours, which excludes the blind, does not hear our voice, which excludes the deaf. They warn him before three and flog him. If he repeats his misdeed, he has been judged by 23. If he is not stoned unless the original 3 are present, as it says, the son of Ara is the son who was flogged in your presence. If he fled before the sentence was pronounced and the lower beard then grew around, he is exempt. If he fled after the sentence was pronounced and his lower beard then grew around, he is liable. Ben Soma Ora is judged according to his eventual outcome. Let him die innocent, not guilty. For the death of the wicked is beneficial on them, to them, and beneficial to the world. But that of the righteous is detrimental to them and detrimental to the world. Wine and sleep for the wicked are beneficial to them and beneficial to the world. But for the righteous, they are detrimental to them and detrimental to the world. Dispersal of the wicked is beneficial to them and beneficial in the world. But that of the righteous is detrimental to them and detrimental to the world. Assembly of the wicked is detrimental to them and detrimental to the world, but that of the righteous is beneficial to them and beneficial to the world. Tranquility is for the wicked is detrimental to them and detrimental to the world, but for the righteous it is beneficial to them and beneficial to the world.
The boss.
Well done. If she agreed to bring him money, a silver seller becomes 6 dinners. The groom takes upon himself 10 dinners for the basket per 100. If Shimon ben Gamliel says everything follows the local custom. If one marries off his daughter without specifying, he should not give her less than 50 zuz. If he agreed to take her in unprovided, the husband cannot say, when I take her into my house, I will clothe her with my clothing. Rather, he must clothe her while she is still in her father's home. Likewise, if he marries off an orphan, he may not give her less than 50 zuz. And if there is sufficient in the coffer, they provide her according to the honor due her. Okay. An orphan who was married off by her mother or her brothers with a consent, and they assign to her in writing 100 or 50 zuz. When she becomes of age, she can exact from their hand what should be rightfully given to her. But Yehuda says, if he married off the first daughter, the second one shall be given in the manner that he gave the first one. And the sages, however, say sometimes a man is poor and becomes rich, or rich and becomes poor. Rather, they appraise the property and give it her. If one deposits money for his daughter with a trustee and says, I trust.
We've done 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have 2 more. Okay. Let's see. If one weeds leaf plants for the non-Jews, though the product is tevel, he may eat of it a chance meal.
Hold on a second.
Did I go too far ahead?
Chumas Tesvav.
Oh, sorry. What grows from tevel is permitted if it is of a kind whose seed disintegrates. But if it is a kind whose seed does not disintegrate, then what grows from that was grown from it is forbidden. Which is the kind whose seed does not disintegrate, such as an arum, garlic, and onion. And Rabbi Yehuda says garlic is like barley. If one weeds leaf plants with a non-Jew through the product is tevel, he may eat of it a chance meal. As truma seedlings which have become unclean were replanted, they become clean, and that they do not contain uncleanliness, but they may not eat of them until the edible part is cut out. And Yehuda says until he cuts it out and repeats thus. If one puts an onion into lentils, if it was whole, it is permitted. But if it's cut up, if it imparts a flavor, in the case of all other dishes, whether whole or cut up, if it imparts a flavor, Rabbi Yehuda permits in the case of pickled fish that it is only used to remove the bad smell.
Okay. And finally, ohalos.
Okay. Yud Aleph Gimel. A thick garment and a thick bean only spread tuma when they are a handbreadth above the ground. If 2 garments are folded one on top of the other, tuma only spreads when the upper one is at least a handbreadth above the ground. If a person is lying down, Beit Shammai says he does not spread tuma, whereas Beis Hillel says a person is hollow and the part of his body that is above spread.
This is one of the chumras of Beis Hillel that a person is considered hollow, and therefore his upper body spreads the tumah between different areas. Yeah.
If someone was looking down from a window and formed an ohel over corpse bearers, Beis Shammai says he does not spread tumah, whereas Beis Hillel says he spreads tumah. They agree that if he is dressed or 2 people are one on top of the other, they spread tumah. If a person is lying, if a person is lying on the threshold while whole corpse bearers pass over him, Beis Shammai says he does not spread tumah, whereas Beis Hillel says he spreads tumah.
Okay, that's it.
Right. So now you have the whole morning free.
Yeah.
Right. My son was off to Poland